How are we doing on this terrific Tuesday? This is Dr. Gregory Clarke Sr., and I apologize. Well, I apologize for some of the lateness, but some of it was the platform was acting real wonky today. I don't know why. Miss Nicole, you sent me a text. Zoom was acting the platform was acting a little funky on your side. I just want to know what was going on. We
It
have
said my internet connection was weak, and I'm like, oh no, they got all their money. So I tried my phone, I tried my computer, then I said, you know what? We apologize. And it started working. Thank God.
Amen, amen, amen. And today I feel a little Yankee-ish, so I had to pull it out. A little 2009. The last time we won the World Series, we got to get back. We see now that the Knicks have won. I had to pull this out to say, wait a minute. For some of those fake people, no, some of those people out there that ain't got no good sense, that will start to say, are you a fan? Yes, been a fan. Always a fan of New York, and just pull that out. Hopefully the Yankees, maybe this will be the Yankees year. This would be that would be extra great testament. Maybe it could be the Giants year. Maybe it could be the Jets year. I would talk about the Mets, but I know Miss Johnson will probably get on me about that if I start talking about them.
In the spirit of solidarity, my
Okay.
because I'm still Knicks hungover, I'm
Okay.
gonna let you live.
Okay. See, that's what I'm saying. Because I
But
know
if you
she.
keep going, I'm gonna call
No, no,
the
no, no. I'm not
aunties
gonna keep
who's
going. I'm
outside
not.
saging the
No, no, no,
garden.
no, 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 no,
Okay, all right now, be careful.
no. We're gonna be nice. We're gonna be nice. They're New Yorkers, just like I said. 2015, when they made it to the World Series, I rooted for them, even though they lost to Kansas City. But we were still rooting for them because they're New Yorkers. So I can totally get it. We're not we as Buster Brown said, we are not New York-ish, since I'm not gonna curse. But we are on our New York-ish. At the time of this taping, yes, the New York Knicks are world champions, which we're New York is still on that extra continuous, I won't say high, but euphoria. And it's good for the city. You started noticing people giving, as I say, the New York head nod. People are nodding to each other. People are usually, walking around a little gruffy. You see each other with some Nick gear on, all of a sudden it's like, what I'm saying, a little, you may get a little smirk, a little smile. A little something that's breaking the ice, breaking that proverbial tension that's in the air, and overall that's a good thing. And that's why sports is a great exercise, and it can bring people together. It bring teams together. And once again, we shout out the Knicks. Big Body Brunson, Jamaican brethren. You know, led the team, and now after 53 years, they got themselves a chip, which is going to be good. Now everybody's going to be gunning from them. Even the pundits already said that. I don't know if they're going to repeat, but right now I'm not worrying about if they're repeating or not, because the NBA itself, that particular basketball league, hasn't had a back-to-back champion now, with the Knicks winning 8 straight seasons. That there hasn't been a back-to-back champion. So in some ways, that's kind of good. From those of you who are true sports fans, and yes, we're going to jump into the teaching, but this is the monologue today. We're keeping it light. We're not going to focus on nobody's 80th birthday, and foolishness with UFC, and an idiot who talks out of his mouth about one of our beloved first ladies. See, all that stuff. That's how you know someone is in your mind. I will digress into that. When you can see that, when the White House did not decry that, or say that that person shouldn't have said that, or and they start screaming about free speech, it's the same thing that we talk about what happened to Carmelo Anthony in the state of Texas. It's amazing how Texas is a stand your ground state, and you have the right to defend yourself. But a young black male, 17 years old, who defended himself because he was being bullied, gets 35 years. But yet the same precedent in that own state shows a white young man, same age, got 10 years. And on top of the 10 years, part of it was suspended sentence. So these are the things that when we start to get into these certain conversation. Yes, we're going to get into the third part of being in this respective arc. But these are the things that we have to be very mindful of. We have to be very watchful of. And then when we start to bring some of these conversations up to say, wait a minute, something's not right here. We can't say that this man's life is not as worth as much as this man's life, or this man's life is worth more than this man. We're all hopefully have the same type of biological structure that we got from the Most High. And regardless of, some of us have melanin, which is an excellent thing, and some of us who do not. It doesn't make one from the skin tone situation better than the other. But there is too many miscarriages of justice. But I hope some of you out there are starting to enjoy. These gas prices are going down, even though we still don't know what type of deal was signed. We got to remember, it's just a lot of weird stuff going on. And sometimes you got to just sit there and shake your head and, just shake your head. Oh, and before I even go any further, even though it was yesterday, it is my pleasure to once again say happy birthday to Dr. Cheryl Clarke. As she's part of the junior mothers, but that's for another dispensation, another platform. But once again, it's my pleasure to say happy birthday and announce it and enunciate that and articulate that. You know, she's glowing, she's growing, and she's manifesting. We just came from a great interaction today where she did um, a great interaction with some young ladies, some 11 and 12-year olds. I have to send her the footage because I was her cameraman today, and it was excellent. You know what I'm saying? She's spreading her "girl, you cute" message. It's getting in the school. She had a great feedback. The parents loved it. And the parents started asking, "Where's the stuff for the boys?" So I started talking about life in the huddle. And Cheryl whipped out my book and whipped out the student playbook that goes along with it. And they started asking, "We saw what she did with the boys, with the girls. We need something for the boys." I said, "We got something." See, we're laying down the groundwork, getting ready for 2026-27 school year and all the great things that can manifest themselves. So before I go any further, Dr. Cheryl Clarke, would you like to greet the people? Miss Birthday Gemini Lady.
Blessings, everyone. Have a thank you for my birthday shout out and a good evening to you all.
Hey, I'm surprised Miss Johnson didn't say anything, but that's okay. Because I saw she put the Home Alone sign up. Well, we won't go
Some
in.
some things just doesn't need to be said. So, and you choose to say them, and maybe one day, just maybe one day, just maybe one day.
What about with the claps? Oh my goodness. Well, before I get myself into further trouble, let's get into the teaching. So once again, keep voting, keep manifesting, keep developing, keep positioning yourself. That's one thing I can talk about today before I jump into the teaching, because that was another reason why myself and Dr. Cheryl Clarke were able to be in some space of sociality, as things are moving for going beyond the couch, where that's where is the incubator for not only the Girl You Cute curriculum, but for the Life in the Huddle curriculum, and just to have some great conversations and just to be around people who are doing some great stuff in the community, especially for the Bronx, for the BX borough, where we both, hail from. It was nice. It was very nice. So, shout out those organizations. And the only reason why I'm not saying their names, if they're sponsoring us, maybe I would say their name. But since, we're building up our sponsorship, we'll shout out, those two great organizations, one that's affiliated with the city of New York and one bank that's, assisting them and making sure they take care of community groups and businesses that are taking care of the community. So we appreciate that. It was a great interaction and great. Any thoughts on that, Dr. Cheryl Clarke, before we go further, from your perspective?
Yeah, I just think that there's some amazing things going on, and I want everybody to know that we're out of COVID and we need to get outside. there's some things happening. And this is a great time for the Black and Brown community. So if you do have a business, go start to use AI to look for grants. We got one today, and we'll be talking more about that. Going Beyond the Couch, we received a grant. So we are excited about what's the next steps. And we will be in schools. We will be in churches, communities, organization, because the next generation is our future. So stop shaking your head at them and let's be a part of the solution. If you see something, do something about it. Maybe that's for you to begin to tackle. So I'm excited about moving this thing. I know Nicole is going to have us in lockstep and making sure that we're moving and pushing the movement forward, because it's not about us, but it is about how we can move our community forward. And I'm
Thank you for that. And let me do the robot for Nicole, because she is getting us very regimented. So it's wonderful. It's a wonderful thing. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So without further ado, let's jump into the teaching for today. This is wonderful. This is wonderful. This is wonderful. Okay. Let's hide these, because we do not need to see these. That's right. Okay. Are we cooking with good gas today, Miss Johnson?
We are cooking like OG at an Obi.
Love it. Tip, tip, tip. Oh, matter of fact, before I even jump in this, and this is renewing the mind for the comeback. How did you feel? Because that was after last Tuesday. So, yeah, wait a minute. Let me pause this for a second. Let me stop the share. How did you feel about the game? Let's get some insight. Wait a minute. The Knicks won. Wait a minute. Let me not just jump over that. Miss Johnson, how's it been in your area? With the Knicks winning, because I know because Wednesday night when all the real stuff went on with OG, that was after our Tuesday taping. So yeah, let me get some feedback. Let me get some thoughts. How was Miss Johnson's repertoire with what went on past couple of days?
It was reminiscent of some Giants game where I had to turn the TV off and go to my Lord in prayer just to make sure that everything was as he was divinely appointing.
Mm.
Then I walked away for like a couple minutes because the end was kind of stressful.
Mm.
And then I heard a mighty rushing wind. And I realized it was my neighborhood opening the doors to start shooting fireworks. I'm like, I think the Lord came through. And it was good. And then the horns and the screaming. And then we danced like David. And I'm complete.
Come on now. Dr. Cheryl, what are your feelings for the past couple of days? Because you were excited working on certain things as well, but you were into it as well. What are your thoughts about the Knicks and what you witnessed, history being made? Because that was a historic night last week, Wednesday. That was no team ever came back from 29 points down to win a finals game. What were your thoughts, Miss Clarke, as a Bronxite?
I just wanted to say that I wasn't born yet when they won the first time, but others were. So, but I will say,
he's throwing down some gauntlets. I love it.
but
Yes.
so I wouldn't have known what it felt like before. But I will say it was a great time to be a New Yorker. And so we are very passionate. I will say that as a community. So yeah, it was good. I'm glad they won. I'm glad that there was able. You know what else I was glad for? The Brunson men, the father and son. That was so great to see, and I was happy for them. I was happy for that moment for them, and I could wait.
Excellent. Mr. Sampson, another gentleman who went on social media with his Brooklyn Nets hat on. So he got some. He can express himself as well about the New Yorker ish. So how are you feeling?
Still wearing another Brooklyn Nets hat. I'm not hating. I am totally ecstatic. I mean, oh my God, what an amazing historical event that we all got to witness. I am just so very happy for that team, for the organization, but mostly for the fans, because that is a long time to keep seeing someone that you love and support losing. And to see them being written off and to come back and to just and for Brunson to had, led the way by taking a pay cut for the team, which elevated the level of character, and for it to actually manifest itself in a positive way. Because if he'd have done that and they wouldn't have won, it wouldn't have been quite as effective. But because they won, and because they won as a team, and it was a team effort, it was a beautiful thing to witness, man. It was just an amazing thing to witness. And like you said, I was in a parking lot and somebody had on a Knicks shirt and the other person jumped their hands up and they all waved at each other. And I was like, oh, this is a good day. I just wish it could last a little longer, but we'll take what we get now. But yes, to see those young men do what they did, and to yeah, it was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. So I'm looking forward to the parade on tomorrow. Thursday, excuse me, on Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday.
On Thursday. I when you work every day, you don't know what day of the week it is. So
I totally understand. We totally get. Believe you, we understand. We understand.
And belated happy birthday again, my sister Cheryl, sister Nicole, brother William, and brother Edward. Hello to all of you. And it's just a blessing to be here. And Dr. Clarke, you know how I feel about you. So
Blessings.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're gonna go into tonight's teaching, since especially as we know that we're cooking with some gas, some good gas, not bad gas. Okay, let's hide that. Okay, there we go. Renewing the mind for the comeback. Why information alone never creates transformation. And the reason why, as we were here talking about the Knicks as a team, and we talk about like a Jalen Brunson and some of his choices, and then the the office staff and the GM and the president and stuff who enacted some of the trades, and there was a time New York was in uproar. How can you trade 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges? How could you trade DiVincenzo and Randall and only get back Cat? I thought Cat couldn't do this, and and we, he's going, why do we let Hartenstein go? And You had a plan. And when you think about renewing, and it's not about going to, if we was talking from a biblical space, going to Romans 12:2, but when you think about renewing doesn't always come from this place of just replenishing. Sometimes it's what you do. It shows a love of your character, because when you're renewing your mind, you're allowing yourself to say, whatever it is that I'm really consistent at that's working, means I got to go do it again. That's what made Kobe great. That's what made Michael Jordan great. That's what has allowed for LeBron James to be going towards probably his 24th season, playing at an extremely high level. Because usually when players start saying that, oh, they played 20 seasons, then, oh, that person's an old man, this and that. We're talking, a couple of games that extra that if he did not miss, he probably would have made the third team All NBA at 41 years old, going on 42. So when people start hating, see, that's why you have to be very mindful when people start hating. Don't allow people to hate on you, even though your haters are good. The reason why your haters are good, because your haters can go into a space that can amplify and kind of show and put a spotlight and say, wait a minute, that person is kind of good, because you think he's the greatest or not, but just to see the consistency level. So you give a little bit of respect to that. That goes off if you're in the business world, that goes off of your personal life, that goes off even as we can see by the example of sports. So the information that you receive, or the information that you may have your handle on, is not the only thing that creates transformation. The only reason why I'm going to ask Dr. Cheryl Clarke to chime right in already, because it brings me back to the conversation that we was just having before we left and made our way back home to make sure that we were on time for tonight. But to be in that space of sociality, to be amongst those other business entities and having those relevant conversations. What would you say to that? That information alone never creates transformation, Dr. Cheryl. But what would create transformation? What do you think from your perspective? What would really create transformation?
I think what really creates transformation is what we did at the very end. We got off in groups and began to brainstorm. They had a couple of questions to prompt us, and then the leaders were saying, we need your feedback in order for us to make this better. So I think transformation happens when you're able to give feedback, and that's what they took from our culture, able to speak what we think about, what we know, and they tried to silence us. And then a lot of us learned how to just be silent. And that is not a space of how we can have transformation. Transformation happens in community. Transformation happens in a conversation. Transformation happens in sharing. And a lot of our culture lives in secret. And I'm complete.
Excellent, excellent. Any other of the members of the Comeback Collective Circle? Any thoughts popping up in your head before we move on? And we're just only on the title slide. Any thoughts that's popping up? We would love to have anybody else that have a thought, anything that comes up to their mind. Because we have different business leaders here. We have people who are, managing and governing situations and creating their own atmospheres. And we start to recognize that as we start to really position ourselves outside of our regular comfort zones, that even in those unknown or uncomfortable spaces, those are actually beneficial spaces to be in, because that is the only way you grow. You cannot grow being comfortable. You cannot grow saying, I'm going to do the exact same thing and I'm going to expect a greater result. No. That means you have to exert some energy. I've noticed that even when it comes to taking care of my health, when I go into the weight room, I'm lifting more weights now than I did in the beginning when I went back to lifting weights. Why? Because now my body's becoming much more conditioned. And as I say, consistent, ever so often you allow the weight to go a little bit higher, maybe, 10 pounds more in your sets. And over time, that helps with the definition. So that helps with the transformation process. So we should always be mindful of that. And that also goes back to what we put in our minds before we apply ourselves in all the areas or respective areas of the marketplace that we're in. And that's why that beingness is so important. You have to be within yourself. It has to be within you in order for you to share it outside of you. If it's not in you, then it's hard for you to share it outside of you. So it's just a thought. Oh, there we go. Okay, the leadership challenge. Miss Johnson, can you read the left, please?
Well, excuse me. Most entrepreneurs and leaders are not suffering from an information deficit. They've read the books, attended the conferences, consumed the podcast, yet many continue producing the same results.
Now, if you can look within yourself, and sometimes we all got, including myself, sometimes we got to find that mirror and look within ourselves like, ooh, am I doing the same stuff, expecting something new? Am I going to read another book? Am I going to attend another conference just to say, oh, check it off my list? Am I going to sit and hear another podcast without implementing something that I heard to, tweak or to enhance what I'm doing? So all those areas show that you are getting information, that you're positioning yourself in those areas where you may be able to recycle or even upcycle what it is that you're hearing. So you can develop and continue to manifest what it is that you desire to do. But at the same time, are you in action mode? And that's why when I look on the right side about the entrepreneurial principle that aligns with what Ms. Johnson just read, knowledge creates awareness. Renewal creates results. See, every single day when we have the ability and we're still here in the land of the living, and we wake up in the morning, in regards of where we are in the grand scheme of the marketplace. Because remember, this past week, Friday, we saw the first trillionaire in this aspect. Because I always still believe the wealthiest person who ever lived was Mansa Musa. And so we have our second trillionaire. And when you start to think about it, it says, based on paper, we're not talking about he has $1 trillion in cash. We're talking about based on what he owns from having, and he only owns now, based upon now the company went public, probably like 39 or 40% of the company. That 39 or 40% of the company, compounded with other stuff that he has done, has made him our first trillionaire. Now, as much as we move beyond the personality, we can recognize his knowledge created some level of awareness, because the same individual is the individual who helped to co-found PayPal. And then after PayPal, he sold PayPal. And then after PayPal, he took that money and started investing in other areas of technology and kept developing all these other areas, even though, there's one particular platform that he has that I will never go on, especially after it stopped tweeting. But when you start to look at it, he still utilized the tools and the possibilities around him, regardless if you like him or not. And that's where sometimes we get caught up as Black and brown people. We sometimes put our feelings too much into things, which hinders our leadership, instead of recognizing, like, wait a minute, we need to get something accomplished, something needs to be done. And it's not that you're going there to steamroll over someone or to be disrespectful or to be blatantly hurtful. But if we're not going to be focused on getting the job done or getting what needs to be done accomplished, then we always going to have that permanent excuse, especially if it's within our culture or community. Like, oh, well, we could have did it, or, I didn't want to hurt that person's feeling, or, they my friend or they my family member, so I don't want to do that because then, that's going to mess with that relationship. Then, wait a minute, are we in business? Which we are getting here in the Comeback Collective circle to recognize that even living is a business. Someone cannot not take care of their responsibilities, and you sitting there smiling like, okay, I'll keep holding the bag. And you say, Dr. Hawk, what does that do with being? It has a lot to do with being. Because now your beingness is being impacted. Now, you know that you got this stuff over there to do, but this person was supposed to do this, and now all of a sudden, okay, we either giving them a pass or we're giving them an excuse, or we're saying this and we're saying that, and we're giving it, and we're giving it, we're giving it, we're giving it. It's like, wait a minute. It's like pouring oil, and then after a while start screaming at the jug saying, why are you empty? Why are you empty? Is it that it's not that you're empty because you don't have the information? It's not empty because you didn't have the ability to get the knowledge. It's not empty that you didn't even make the time for yourself to even invest to hear otherwise people speak. No, you're empty because now you're starting to recognize that process that helps with your renewal. Those other aspects that's supposed to be playing their part are not doing that. And if we look in our physical body, our biological body, if one part starts acting a little wonky, like I was talking today about this platform, the platform was acting wonky, but it got itself corrected and it got itself back in order. Now, suppose something happens in your physical body. I was like, oh, I got this sharp pain here, or I feel something here, or something's going on there. And it's like, wait a minute, the body's telling you now. It's like, wait a minute, something's out of order. Something needs to be addressed. Something needs to be looked at. And maybe above where your skill set is, like, oh, man, I got to go find someone who can tell me, yo, what's going on? Why am I feeling this? But those times we seek out the right person to say, yo, we need to go find this practitioner who can help me. So we have to start recognizing that as I'm positioning this leadership challenge, that we have to be in space now to recognize we could be in space of information overload. And after a while, we can be giving out too much or talking too much about something and not really being in action around it. And true action means that you're getting results. True action is not saying, oh, I'm doing something, I'm being busy. Okay, that's great. We're being busy. What was the result from the busyness? Oh, we were busy doing this and this occurred because of our busyness. Okay, so that means you produced a result. It's great. But if your busyness is not producing results, then we really have to start to reassess, not from a space of malice, not from a space of discontent, but from a space of saying, like, yo, what in the bleep is going on here? We can't keep, oh, well, I'm going to keep being the way that I desire to be because that's just who I am. And no, that means something has to evolve. It's not so much about changing. That's why too many times when we start saying, oh, this person needs to change or that needs to change, no, it's not about change. Wherever you evolved, because sometimes we can even use change as an excuse. I'm going to change, I'm going to change, I'm going to change, I'm going to change. And then you turn around and it's like, oh, but you're producing the same result. So you didn't change. That was lip service. You talked a great game, but your efforts, your fruit has bared nothing. So we're going to move on to the next slide. That's the leadership challenge. Let's not be stuck in information overload. And let's start to really recognize, regardless if it's one thing that you work on, that you cement that helps your personal business flywheel that you're developing to flow and to move ever forward, let's get that area done so that you can start to see new results and not the same old, same old. The real breach, learning versus transformation. Dr. Cheryl Clarke, can you please read that small paragraph?
Sure, if I can see it. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is often not learning gap. It is the becoming gap.
Now, everything that you're looking at that's manifesting, and yes, I gave you a little Romans 12 and 2 in the bottom, and I'll come to that word akenosis. It's a Greek word, one word. But when we start to really think about it, we sometimes position certain things as, oh, it could be a learning problem, or I don't have the ability to understand, or I don't have the ability to decipher this and that and the third. And we start saying all these things that I'm going to say now, cancel behind, because now it's not really it's not really learning. See, certain things, because if that was the case, Henry Ford should not have become a billionaire before he closed his eyes permanently. Because Henry Ford only had about a fourth grade education. So we can't sit there and say, oh, wait a minute, the only reason why Henry Ford became a billionaire because he was smart. No, he was. But now we're talking about a different type of level of smartness. Sometimes we can be so caught up in sometimes the educational space of saying, oh, because this person got A's, that shows how smart they are. That means they're going to be successful in life. And that's not necessarily true. It is who you becoming. Who are you speaking life to each and every day when you look in that mirror and say, who I'm going to be? What am I today? Am I playing small? Or am I recognizing that I'm aspiring to get up that mountain? And there's nothing wrong with having mountains that you're aspiring to conquer. Because too many times we can talk ourselves, and remember, right now, I'm even talking to myself. Yes, Dr. Clarke is talking to himself as well as I'm sharing this with you. And that's why we invite you to become a part of the Comeback Collective Circle. You can visit CoachClarkeDmen.com, get on the email list, and definitely become a subscriber to this YouTube channel at Dr. Gregory Clarke, Master Coach. Now, as we continue, it is about becoming every single day, regardless whatever it is that you're consistent in, that's what you're starting to become. If it's your health measures, if you're working, as my wife, when we was on a particular platform where we used to do some level of coaching, in her office, she had a wheel that showed like it had eight different quadrants. And it was like 12.5% of that. It was 1/8. And it showed the different, and she would, sometimes, and when I had those wonderful moments of maybe, piggy and, ear hustle, she would ask people, it's like, okay, for this quadrant, at this section of your flywheel, where you think you at? Where you think you at over here? Or where you think you at over here? Because after a while, remember that whole circle, that whole flywheel equals 100. It's not like you're going to end up being 105, 130%. No, you're going to end up at 100. And it's not about looking for perfection. It's about recognizing, are you just learning stuff or are you being transformed by what you're doing? Because you can be in a space that says, I'm just going to keep going to school, I'm going to school, I'm going to keep going to school, I'm going to go to school, go to school, go to school. It's like, wait a minute, you're a professional student? That's your job title? Professional student? Okay, tell me what it is that you have applied in your respective life based upon what you've learned so that you can start to see certain things be transformed to be added unto you. Oh, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to go take another class. You're a professional student. And even after a while, which makes it kind of bad, is that education only going to take you but so far based upon how you apply it, how you're utilizing it. If you just scaffolding on top and scaffolding on top and there's no practical sense of movement, then you're going to be stuck in the problem. And the problem is not information, it is transformation. Are you being transformed? Are you willing to elevate and really position yourself in that anakinosis, as it says in Romans 2, becoming new in quality, not merely acquiring new information? Because I know Dr. Shaw and myself were having certain conversations with some of the people this early part of the evening. And one person was talking about, about books. And it's so true. We've become so digital, or we've become so much in a space, and it's not so much that libraries aren't needed. Libraries are still needed. Sometimes it's good to have that, physical book, or if you have your Kindle, or whatever it is that you're able to read, a PDF, if you have a reader, that's great. You're adding some value to yourself. But to say that, to have that book in your hand, to say, I'm going to get something from someone who has some level of expertise that I can glean from and apply some of this knowledge into what I'm doing right now so I can be transformed. That's the reason why you read. And we even got into the fact of the matter is, Bronx, New York, as we're part of New York City, has no bookstore. The one bookstore that they had that used to be in Bay Plaza is gone. And you sit there like, wow. We talk about food deserts. Do we have a book desert? Do we have a book desert where back in the day, and there used to be a terrible folly when they said, you want to hide something from a black person, put it in a book. Well, now that we recognize that there's great information in some of these books and some of this wisdom and some of the stuff that you can utilize and mix it with the technology at hand. Now we're not even touching books. There's no possibility for that anakinosis to happen. Because the transformation that needs to be occurring was like, wait a minute, okay, I'm adding some more fuel to my mind fire so I can produce something, produce a result. Not do the same old thing, but produce a result. And if I produce enough new results along with the quality of stuff that I'm doing previously, next, that's when you start to see that rule of 72 or compound interest starts to really work as a cycle for your life. Because now that brings us to the identity trap. A new strategy operating from an old identity will eventually produce old results. So I'm not sitting here saying that this person is a bad person or something, you're a bad individual or you're bad this. But no, you could be bad in how you're operating. And I believe we said it, if it wasn't last week, it was definitely the week before last, but I know within the past 2 weeks, we talked about it. Say everyone's at Windows 11, but you're still in Windows 95. Now, Windows 95 was a good operating system in 1995. Not in 2006 and 2026. Like, oh, I'm on Windows 11. Yeah, you should be on Windows 11. Nah, I'm kind of nervous. I may update to Windows 98. It's like, wait a minute, Microsoft doesn't even send out any patches for that. Windows 95 been retired. They don't even have updates for Windows 10. But that's what you're still working through? We need to think about that for a second. Is there anything, Miss Johnson? I know with you being a techie, what's showing up for you as I'm giving this share?
That learning for the sake of learning is actually damaging to you and your community because you're not actually applying or sharing the knowledge. You're basically becoming your own private library, and no one's allowed to take out any books. You're wasting time. So to learn without an outlet to share is actually polluting your mind in a way
Mm.
because it's sitting there and it's getting stale and you're not realizing you're getting stale. You're just proud that you're adding more books, not realizing that they're spilling out the back of your head and that knowledge is actually lost. And I'm complete.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Anybody else? Any thoughts by anybody else that want to chime in? It's your opportunity. What's showing up for you? Because we all should be moving some level of anakinosis, that we're becoming renewed. It's the renewing of the mind. It's the ability to say, wait a minute, I'm pouring something fresh within me, and I'm not becoming an old wineskin. I'm not becoming that old wineskin. I'm new. I'm refreshed. I'm revitalized. There's a reason why I'm getting this information, because now I'm only applying myself, but now I'm gonna turn around and start sharing it with others, which means I'm keeping it in conversation. That means I'm keeping it in communication. If I'm keeping it in communication, that means there's some sort of movement. There's some sort of flow happening. If there's a flow happening, that means not only are other people getting the opportunity to grasp it and keep it, but then you get to keep it as a sharer. And you're not stuck with this place saying, oh, I'm so smart. Oh, you can be so smart where you start to become dumb because you have no results to show from it of how smart you are. Did you grow in your social media? Did you grow in your marketing? Did you grow in your advertising? Did you grow in your learning capability and then turn around and share that with someone else? That's why I give my wife major props, because in one particular, platform and area, as she was continuing to add more value. And I've taken a class at Stanford just to say she has Stanford on her resume. No, she went and decided to do something that was going to add some value because she knew that was going to force her to get out of her comfort zone. And there was an AI tool that was presented to her, and then she turned around and shared that information with her community. She could have kept it to herself or just say, oh, okay, I'm just going to talk to my husband about it. Yo, I heard about this and this and that and the third. No, she turned around and started sharing it to the respective community. Now that particular tool has become a major part of certain areas operating systems. But I know I can look back and give her the credit. I wouldn't say this, oh, Dr. Gregory Clarke found it. No, 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 no. She found that. Not so much she found it. She became aware of it and she was willing to share it with her community. That's where the transformation happened. See, she learned about something. That's great. Oh, that's cute. That's wonderful. Oh, you heard some tendencies or some capabilities and some capacities. That's excellent. But the transformation process came into play. Oh, by the way, they presented something to me that we wasn't really working in, and all of a sudden, as I started really working in it, and delving into it, and getting my feet wet in it, it's kind of an interesting platform. What would happen if we started adding this as not so much as a replacement, but as an addendum? That was anakinosis. She presented something that was new in quality, and it wasn't just information. It became applicability. It became applicable for us to be able to say, okay, let's try this thing out. And all of a sudden, as we started to see this thing morph and develop and grow and expand and this and that, there was like, wow. But I know in the back of my mind, oh, the reason why this is happening is because of her. And sometimes we have to be very, very aware of giving credit to those around you when they present you an aha moment. There's times when, Nicole will have a question with us, or we'll have a conversation with her, and all of a sudden she'll hit, and she doesn't recognize it, but sometimes she hit us with an aha moment. And it's like, that's a good thing. It's good to hear a different perspective. It's good sometimes to be checked. Not from a space that, oh my God, I'm going to tell you what to do. No, no, no. Checking means, as Dr. Cheryl alluded to when we just left that meeting, when you can give feedback that you're allowing yourself to be well-rounded around, even if it's something that you may not necessarily like, you start to recognize it's beneficial for you. It's part of the medicine to make you well. Don't push them. Oh, you know what I'm saying? They're presenting you some medicine that can make you well. No, 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 don't give me the medicine. You just stay over there and you just be quiet. You know how dumb you look? That person is attempting to give you some medicine to say, here, you need to hear this. Or you could tweak this, or you can do this, and whatever it is. And you're going to push